Did you ever used to take your lunch to school back in the day? I never got the chance to be one of those kids that brought that nice sack lunch. But boy, did I used to hate sitting beside those kids at lunch. Here they'd pull up with their fancy lunch bags. Back in the day, it was Pokemon, it was Rugrats, it was all the cool stuff. And here I am stuck with my styrofoam tray that smells vaguely of ketchup. And every single day, without fail, they'd pull item after item after item out of this bag, like Santa Claus pulling presents after presents after presents and toys out of the bag. And first would come the sides. It was always good stuff, right? Chips and pretzels and nuts and fruits and carrots and celery and all the dips, the hummus and the ranch. And it always seemed like the containers never stopped coming. And then the main course would come next. It'd be a neatly cut turkey sandwich, maybe a warm soup in a thermos, maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And if they were really, really lucky, maybe they pulled out a Lunchable. You can make your own little pizza. You can make your own little cracker sandwiches. And there was always multiple things, always a variety. And then would come the drink, right? Maybe a Capri Sun, maybe a juice box, and if they're really lucky, maybe a Gatorade. And then finally, the kicker, the best part, right? Dessert. And if you know anything, moms never skimp on dessert. There'd be cookies, a pack of Oreos, a cup of pudding, maybe cake. There was always something delicious, always something better than what was on my plate. Boy, did I used to hate those kids. But why did I hate them? When I used to look down at my plate, it never used to look anything as good as their collage of food in front of them. It was just mashed potatoes and chicken nuggets of mystery meat, maybe some runny green beans. Never looked as good as the Doritos and turkey sandwich, the fruit punch Capri Sun, and pack of Oreos. When I looked down at my plate, it was never as good as theirs. And you know what? That feeling has existed since the beginning of time. Every human has experienced that, where they look at something that they have, and they look at somebody else's, and they say, oh, that's so much better. Even my 4-year-old feels that. We're programmed to look at differences, to notice things, right? We just are. We sit down and eat. The first thing that my 4-year-old does is he scans all of the plates at the table just to make sure that he's not missing out on anything, that nobody at the table has something better than what he has on his plate, that there's no delicious foods that he didn't get the privilege of eating. But why? Why is this? And what if we could be different? What if we were called to be different? Our text from 1 Peter, it calls us to unity. And that idea is something that feels foreign to us in this world right now. It says, summing up, be agreeable, be sympathetic, be loving, be compassionate, be humble. And that goes for all of you. No exceptions, no retaliation, no sharp-tongued sarcasm. Instead, bless. That's your job, to bless. You'll be a blessing and also get a blessing. Whoever wants to embrace life and see the day fill up with good, here's what to do. Say nothing evil or hurtful. Snub evil and cultivate good. Run after peace with all your worth. God looks on all of this with approval, listening and responding well to what he's asked. But he turns his back on those who do evil things. If with heart and soul you're doing good, do you think that you can be stopped? Even if you suffer for it, you're still better off. Don't give the opposition a second thought. Through thick and thin, keep your hearts at attention. In adoration before Christ, be ready to speak up. And tell anyone who asks why you're living the way that you are, and always with the utmost courtesy. Keep a clear conscience before God so that when people throw mud at you, that none of it will stick. They'll end up realizing that they're the ones that need a bath. It's better to suffer for doing good. That's what Christ did definitively. Suffered because of others' sins. The righteous one for the unrighteous ones. He went through it all, was put to death, and then made alive to bring us to God. You know, friends, when was the last time that you were agreeable? Seems like a crazy thought in this world, right? In the political climate that we live in, but it's the way that we're called to live our lives, to reach for unity instead of division. You know, there's this age-old story about two brothers in Israel. And these brothers, they lived on neighboring farms, but they didn't quite get along. They butted heads. One was the consummate bachelor, and the other had a wife and children and was living the storybook family life. And they just never quite gelled. But they lived on these neighboring farms, and they both grew wheat. And so one night, the married brother woke up startled in the middle of his sleep, and he had a prayer on his heart. And he thought to himself, how will my brother survive all by himself alone in this world with no one to help him? And so he got dressed, and he went out to his barn, and he grabbed all the wheat that he could carry, and he ran across the field, and he put it in his brother's barn, added it to his stockpile. And it just so happened that same night, the bachelor brother also woke up in the middle of the night with a prayer on his heart. And he thought to himself, how will my brother take care of his family, all of these ones that he loves all by himself without help? And so he got dressed, and he went out to his barn, and he grabbed as much wheat as he could carry, and he ran across the field and added it to his brother's stockpile in the barn. And so this went on and on and on, night after night, each brother giving to the other. And so one night, under a full moon, in the light of that moon, in the very center of that field, the brothers ran smack into each other. And they looked at each other like the Spider-Man meme. It's you, it's me, what are we doing? And it's in that moment that they realized how much they loved each other. It was in that moment that they realized that they have far more in common than could ever separate them. And they say that's the spot that the temple at Mount Moriah was built. And the truth is, my friends, we could find 10,000 reasons to be divided, to create distance between one another, to create this separation and this tension in our society, right? The way that we look, the way that we talk, where we came from, the way that we vote. But the truth is, we have far more in common than we have different. Most of us are just trying to make a way in this world. We're just trying to put one foot in front of the other, trying to live lives of substance, trying to make our actions mean something. We're all just trying to do good. But if we're not careful, division becomes our default. And if we're not careful, our hearts begin to reach for the divide instead of unity. And the only thing that breaks this fissure in our society is love. I don't know where you are in your journey of life, in your journey of faith, but I do know this, that you are loved. And I know that there's going to be moments when you see differences far clearer than you see anything that you have in common with other people. I know there's going to be moments where all you see is the difference in opinion instead of common ground. But it's in those moments that we lean on the Spirit of God to hold us. Because in the Spirit, there's freedom. And in freedom, there is much love. And in love, there is, and there shall always be, God. Thanks be to God.
These are your talks, Tatum. This is the hope of God set free. These are your talks, it's Him.